Jalen Hurts declines to say if he's okay after twisting knee in Eagles' playoff win over Rams. Jalen Hurts led the Philadelphia Eagles to a hard-fought 28-22 win over the Los Angeles Rams in their Divisional Round playoff game on Sunday. But his knee injury has left questions about his availability for next week's NFC Championship game. Hurts twisted his left knee during the third quarter after a sack by Rams safety Jalen McCollough. As Hurts was tackled, both of his feet got pinned beneath his body, causing him to clutch his left knee immediately after hitting the ground. The hit clearly shook him up, and Hurts limped off the field, heading straight for the medical tent. Despite the injury, Hurts returned to the game after some time in the tent, donning a knee brace, and finished out the game. But his status for the NFC Championship game remains uncertain. NBC's Melissa Stark asked Hurts after the game how his knee would affect him moving forward, particularly in next week's high-stakes matchup against the Washington Commanders. Hurts kept his cards close to his chest, responding, "I'm sure I'll get asked about it later. I don't know if I can answer that right now." Stark followed up, asking him plainly, "Are you okay?" Hurts replied simply, "I finished the game," without providing further clarity on his condition. During his post-game press conference, Hurts was asked again about his injury but remained tight-lipped, saying, "Tough game, a challenging game. I was able to finish the game, and we'll see how the week goes." Hurts didn't offer any updates or specific details about the severity of his knee injury. Injury details and impact on game. Hurts' knee injury occurred during the third quarter sack by McCollough. The tackle pinned Hurts' legs under his body, which appeared to strain his left knee. Hurts was clearly in discomfort as he clutched his knee, but after a brief visit to the medical tent, he returned to lead the Eagles' offense for the rest of the game. He was seen wearing a knee brace after his return, and although he finished the game, he seemed to be moving more cautiously than usual. The Eagles didn't release any further information on Hurts' injury status, but it was clear he was playing through pain, and his mobility was likely affected. Despite his injury, Hurts helped lead the Eagles to victory, but there were signs that he wasn't at 100% throughout the second half. Looking ahead to the NFC Championship game, the Eagles now have a week to prepare for their NFC Championship game against the Washington Commanders, who upset them earlier in the season. Hurts has time to recover, but the uncertainty surrounding his knee injury will undoubtedly be a talking point as the game approaches. After the game, Hurts was seen walking gingerly down the tunnel toward the locker room with a slight limp, which raised concerns about the injury's long-term impact. However, Hurts remained optimistic and confident in his ability to play next week. With the NFC Championship game on the horizon, the Eagles and their fans will be anxiously awaiting more details on Hurts' injury throughout the week. Hurts' leadership and performance will be crucial if the Eagles are to advance to the Super Bowl, but they will need to monitor his recovery closely. As of now, Hurts' availability for next Sunday's game is still up in the air, and his knee injury will be one of the biggest storylines as the NFC Championship game draws nearer. Eagles ride Saquon Barkley's heroics late defensive stand to snowy victory over Rams in NFC title game berth. There's something undeniably magical about snow games in the NFL. Whether it's the iconic white field, the flakes drifting through the air, or the physical toll it takes on players, there's a reason these snow-covered battles stick in our minds. And on Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles proved that snow games are more than just picturesque, they can lead to clutch, hard-fought victories, in a game where the weather was as brutal as the stakes. Saquon Barkley led the Eagles to a 28-22 win over the Los Angeles Rams, propelling them to the NFC Championship game against the Washington Commanders. And though the Eagles' defense barely held off a late rally from the Rams, it was Barkley's incredible performance and a few key turnovers that ensured Philly would advance to host their NFC East rivals next Sunday. With a trip to the Super Bowl on the line, the snowy battle begins. Early TD runs. When the game kicked off, it quickly became clear that conditions were going to make things difficult. The field was quickly blanketed in snow, and every step seemed to be a struggle for the players. But while the weather played a big role in the game's dynamics, the Eagles didn't seem fazed. Their first-half performance was a testament to their grit. The Eagles weren't exactly flawless on offense, but they found ways to score when it counted. Jalen Hurts had a 44-yard touchdown run in the first quarter, dodging Rams defenders and showcasing his mobility in the snow. Despite a missed extra point, the Eagles were up 6-0. The Rams responded with a touchdown, briefly taking a 7-6 lead. But Barkley was about to make his mark. On the very next possession, Barkley ripped off a 62-yard touchdown run that left Rams edge rusher Jared Verse in his dust, taunting him at the end before crossing the goal line. It was a play that got the Eagles back on top 13-7. In what became a historic moment, Barkley and Hurts made history by becoming the first teammates in Super Bowl-era history to each have a touchdown run of 40 or more yards in a postseason game. But while those two explosive plays were spectacular, the Eagles' offense began to sputter. By halftime, they only had 196 total yards, with 106 of those coming from Barkley's two long runs. The snow, combined with the cold, clearly affected both offenses. The Eagles struggled in the passing game, failing to complete a pass more than 5 yards downfield in the first half. The first half felt like old-school playoff football, with both teams grinding it out in tough conditions. By the time the halftime whistle blew, the Eagles had a narrow 13-10 lead. Second half, a game of inches in the snow globe. As the snow continued to fall in the second half, the field became more and more treacherous. The Eagles, however, remained steady and managed to capitalize on the Rams' misfortunes. The third quarter brought its own set of challenges. Hurts, already hampered by a nagging knee issue, took a vicious hit that sent him to the medical tent for evaluation. Though he returned to the game shortly after, it was clear he wasn't at 100%. On the very next drive, Hurts was sacked in the end zone, and the Rams were awarded a safety. The Rams cut the deficit to 16-15, and it seemed like the game could go either way as Hurts limped around the field. But the snow was about to play a pivotal role once again. Snowy turnovers and Barkley's dominance. The snow was making it tough for everyone to hold on to the ball. And it was the Rams who paid the price first. Kyren Williams fumbled the ball after being hit by Jalen Carter, and the Eagles recovered deep in Rams territory. Barkley did what he does best, taking 3 straight handoffs and getting all the way to the 1-yard line. On 4th and goal, the Eagles were set up to run their signature tush push. But a false start on right tackle Lane Johnson pushed them back 5 yards. Still, they were able to settle for a field goal, extending their lead to 19-15. The Rams had no answer. On their next drive, Matthew Stafford fumbled the ball, and the Eagles were right there to capitalize again. Elliott kicked another field goal, and the Eagles were up 22-15 with just under 6 minutes left. But that wasn't enough to put the Rams away. Rams rally. Can they pull off the impossible? Despite being on the verge of defeat, the Rams weren't ready to give up. After an impressive punt return, the Rams began moving the ball with some success. Stafford found Puka Nacua for a ridiculous 37-yard catch that put the Rams on the Eagles' 21-yard line with just over a minute left. The Rams were knocking on the door, but time was running out. The Eagles' defense, however, wasn't ready to let go of their playoff dreams just yet. The Rams had one final shot to score, and it came down to one last opportunity to convert on 4th down. The Eagles' defense held strong, forcing a sack on 3rd down and an incompletion on 4th with just 30 seconds remaining. And with that, the Eagles had held off the Rams' desperate rally and sealed their 28-22 win, booking a spot in the NFC Championship game. Eagles advance, but the weather remains a factor. The Eagles will host the Washington Commanders next Sunday, but they'll likely be hoping for better weather conditions. Although the snow gave them an edge over the Rams, the Eagles know they can't count on it to help them again. With Hurts' knee still a concern, the Eagles will need all hands on deck in the NFC Championship game to make it to the Super Bowl. As for the Rams, it's a tough loss, but they'll leave Philadelphia with the knowledge that they were simply outplayed in the snow. The turnovers, combined with the weather, were simply too much to overcome, and their season has come to an end. But for the Eagles, the road to the Super Bowl now runs through them. And with Barkley leading the charge, anything seems possible. Looking ahead, with the NFC Championship game on the horizon, all eyes will be on Philadelphia. Will the snow continue to fall, giving the Eagles a familiar edge, or will the Commanders spoil their dreams of a Super Bowl berth? Either way, the stage is set for what should be an unforgettable postseason showdown. And if the weather turns snowy again, don't bet against Saquon Barkley and the Eagles.